Hey everybody, it is October 3rd, 2010. I am Sonic Sons, and I'm doing a video response to Mr. Greg Craven. Mr. Craven, I respect you for the work that you've done educating people about the dangers of global warming, but you recently posted a video which, to my mind, didn't make any sense.
I'm going to weigh in on the topic of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and the Senate's recent attempt to repeal that law, which prohibits gays and lesbians from serving openly in the military. Because I think the Democrats' recent attempt to repeal the law is a horrible idea.
Really? Because I think it's an excellent idea. And having already watched the rest of your video, I can say that your arguments are completely unconvincing.
Criticism is how I make my thoughts better.
Glad to hear that. Now before we start, I'd like to note that your opinion on this matter is not the result of bigotry.
I've got a lot of good friends who are gay, lesbian, or bisexual.
So I'll take your word on that. It's not about being a bigot. What is it about then?
What we need in order to make a rational, pragmatic decision about the law is some information about whether it really is bad for morale or effectiveness. And that means... data! Like, maybe a wide-scale and systematic survey of current military personnel on their experiences and opinions on the issue? Turns out that's been in the works for a while, and the results are due to come out of the closet December 1st. So that's when we should debate it.
I agree that after December 1st we will have more information about Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but I'm perplexed by the idea that we don't already have enough information to make a rational decision about the issue. First off, let's look at the obvious. The idea that gays cannot effectively serve as soldiers is proven ridiculous by the fact that there are many closeted gays already serving as soldiers and doing a fine job of it. And the idea that openly gay people cannot serve alongside heterosexuals is proven false by a couple of other points. First, that openly gay people serve right next to heterosexuals in over a dozen other countries around the world, and their armies and navies and other military forces seem to be doing just fine. And secondly, by the fact that there are women serving in the military. Now, the idea that homosexuals cannot serve openly, at least next to heterosexuals, is based in some part on sexual attraction and the tension that this would cause. But heterosexual females serve next to heterosexual males all the time, and presumably there's some sexual attraction there, and apparently our soldiers are professional enough to not let it interfere with their jobs. And if any particular soldier gets unprofessional, then we just kick them out. But not because of being male or female, just because they derelicted their duty. Now, let's move beyond, though, these broad, obvious statements and move to what you considered most important.
Data!
The data! Now this, sir, is the strangest part of your argument. All it took me was 5 minutes on Wikipedia to find all sorts of data. Data which you apparently never bothered to look up. For instance, here's a Mr. Gregory M. Herek, Ph.D., Associate Research Psychologist at the University of California at Davis, and generally considered a national authority on this subject. Now, he testified before Congress, quote, "My written testimony to the committee summarizes the results of an extensive review of the relevant published research from the social and behavioral sciences. That review is lengthy. However, I can summarize its conclusions in a few words. The research data show that there is nothing about lesbians and gay men that makes them inherently unfit for military service, and there is nothing about heterosexuals that makes them inherently unable to work and live with gay people in close quarters," unquote. Now, isn't that something? To hear a PhD, Associate Research Psychologist, say that. And he didn't just say that in front of Congress, and didn't just say that on behalf of himself, because that would just be one scientist. No. He said that on behalf of many other organizations, including the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, the National Association of Social Workers, the American Counseling Association, the American Nursing Association, and the Sexuality Information and Education Council of the United States. All of these came together through the persona of Gregory M. Herek, Ph.D., who stated that it's perfectly fine to have gays serving openly in the military. And he stated this, Mr. Craven, in 1993. It's been 17 years since we figured this out. And in case you're still at all hesitant on the conclusions of the scientific establishment, allow me to read you a more recent statement from the American Psychological Association, which, within the statement, quotes a large number of studies. I'll skip over the names of the studies, but I'll read to you their conclusions. Quote, "Empirical evidence fails to show that sexual orientation is germane to any aspect of military effectiveness, including unit cohesion, morale, recruitment, and retention. Comparative data from foreign militaries and domestic police and fire departments show that when lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals are allowed to serve openly, there is no evidence of disruption or loss of mission effectiveness. When openly gay, lesbian, and bisexual individuals have been allowed to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces, which has happened, there has been no evidence of disruption or loss of mission effectiveness. The U.S. military is capable of integrating members of groups historically excluded from its ranks, as demonstrated by its success in reducing both racial and gender discrimination. It's right there, Mr. Craven. It's right there.
Okay, I may not have all the information here.
Frick yeah, you don't have all the information. It would have taken you 5 minutes to look this up on Wikipedia. 5 minutes to find out that the scientific establishment devoted to psychology and interpersonal relationships has specifically studied this question. And they have specifically studied unit cohesion and morale, which you cited, and found that it is not an issue. And therefore, the obvious conclusion, don't ask, don't tell, is not supported by the data. In fact, it is contradicted by the data. And what's the most important thing here, according to you, Mr. Craven?
Data!
The data! I am baffled that you did not bother to look this up before you made the video. Now, I will admit that if you do a survey of people currently serving in the military, you will find, yes, that 51% oppose allowing gays and lesbians to serve openly, 24% are in favor, and the remainder are neutral or decline to answer. So, the majority of military members oppose the idea of gays and lesbians being allowed to serve openly in the military. But the actual science on this subject says something quite different. Let's move on to your next point, shall we?
Now, the main reason I think it's misguided to try to repeal this law at this moment is that we have so many other more pressing issues right now. We'd love to right every wrong immediately, but we have finite resources, time, and energy.
I believe that dealing with global climate change is even more important than repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But our resources are far less limited than you may believe. First off, repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell would be the simple matter of passing a law. That's it. There'd be no further investment. There'd be no further money spent. And as a matter of fact, we would save money. The Government Accountability Office tells me we've spent at least $95 million over the years in terms of enforcing the law and then recruiting new people after someone has been kicked out. And the University of California tells me the figure should be closer to $363 million. In any case, we've spent a lot of money enforcing Don't Ask, Don't Tell as it is. We could save that money by not enforcing it anymore, and then we could spend that money on environmental projects. Let me make a brief side note as to what you mentioned as one of the top priorities of the military.
Securing Afghanistan so that it's not a haven for Al-Qaeda, and getting the hell home.
Did it occur to you, Mr. Craven, that that process might be a little bit easier if we stop kicking people out of the military simply because they're openly gay?
Don't ask, don't tell isn't what anyone completely wants. But that's the nature of democracy, isn't it?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't change it. And it doesn't mean we should sit on our hands, considering all the data we already have on this subject.
The best we can do is to keep and enforce don't ask, don't tell, don't harass, don't pursue. No,
sir. The best we can do is to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell right now. I understand that other issues are more important, but it's really not an either-or proposition. We can help the gays and also fix the climate, and also deal with various other crises. And it's wrong of you to suggest that we have no data on this issue with which to make a rational decision. We've got plenty of data. And again, I'm quite surprised you hadn't found it before.
But for now, this is Greg Craven, just trying to think things through.
I appreciate that you're trying to think things through, sir. I realize that you're not an ideologue. You aren't saying something for political points or to please an audience. But I do think that you've gotten quite lost on the thinking there. You really should think it through again. Thanks for watching. See you later.